Deep within the forest, nestled among the lush green trees, lay a dwarf village. The charming inhabitants of this village were loved and respected by all the creatures of the forest, with one exception, the majestic eagles. These predatory rulers of the sky saw the dwarves as a delicious meal. As days turned into weeks, an exciting flurry filled the dwarf village. The traditional parchment race, marking the passage of young dwarves into adulthood, was approaching. Each young dwarf would receive a piece of parchment covered in mysterious markings, and the first to decipher the secrets on these maps and return to the village would win the race. A tiny young dwarf named Hike was eagerly awaiting this important day. However, Hike was a little different from the other dwarf children. He was clumsy and easily startled by the slightest sound. When the race day arrived, Hike took his parchment with trembling hands. While the other brave young dwarves cheerfully ran towards the forest, Hike took a deep breath and tried to prepare himself. After placing a few berries and a water skin in his small backpack, he stepped into the dark and mysterious depths of the forest with his heart pounding. As he ventured deeper into the woods, Hike flinched at every shadow and every sound. He had never been this far before. Suddenly, the powerful beat of wings overhead made him jump. A massive eagle was soaring above, its sharp eyes scanning below. Every hair on Hike's body stood on end. The gruesome tales of the eagles echoed in his ears. Panic seized him, and he ran without looking back. His hasty steps led him unknowingly into a dangerous area. The ground beneath his feet began to soften. A few steps later, Hike realized with horror that he was sinking into mud. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't escape the sticky mire of the swamp. As he floundered in fear and desperation, that dreadful sound of wings echoed once more from above. Hike squeezed his eyes shut, thinking his end had come, but the attack he expected didn't happen. Instead, a strong talon gently snagged the strap of his backpack. Hike opened his eyes in astonishment. Above him was the very majestic eagle that had just terrified him. The eagle made a soft sound, as if to reassure him, and slowly began to pull Hike out of the swamp. Finally free from the mud, Hike was still trembling. The eagle placed him gently on solid ground and looked at him with curiosity. Hike was seeing an eagle this close for the first time in his life. Behind the sharp gaze in its eyes, he sensed an unexpected kindness. Why did you help me?" Hike asked, his voice still shaking. The eagle tilted its head wisely and made a sound as if speaking. Then, it spread its wings, indicating the direction he should go. Hike was astounded by this behavior. Perhaps the stories of the elders weren't entirely true. Maybe there had been a misunderstanding between them. Finally, guided by his eagle friend, Hike reached the dwarf village with its familiar stone paths and tiny, colorful houses. The other young dwarves had already returned to the village, excitedly recounting their adventures. Those who saw Hike stopped in surprise. But their real astonishment came when they noticed the enormous eagle gliding just behind Hike. Panic swept through the village in an instant. Dwarves screamed in fear and tried to hide in their homes. Elderly dwarves, grabbing their weapons, advanced angrily towards Hike and the eagle. Despite Hike's desperate pleas, the dwarves couldn't be convinced. In their eyes, the eagle was still a threat. Several brave dwarves lunged at the eagle with nets. Although the eagle tried to retreat, as if not wanting to harm them, the panicked dwarves managed to capture it. They bound the eagle's feet and wings with strong ropes. Hike cried out in despair, "No! Don't do it, he's my friend." But no one listened to him. They dragged the eagle to the village square and tied it to a large tree. Hike looked at his bound eagle friend, heartbroken and disappointed. His own people were unjustly punishing someone who had helped him. What was he going to do now? How could he prove the eagle's innocence? And most importantly, how could he save his friend from this unfair treatment? As Hike looked helplessly at his bound eagle friend, he remembered the crumpled parchment in his pocket. Trembling, he opened it. The complex drawings and strange symbols had previously seemed like mere games to him. But now, he had to decipher the meaning behind these markings. He began to examine the parchment carefully and realized that the symbols belonged to an ancient legend of friendship that his people had forgotten. With the parchment in his hand, Hike went to the wise elder dwarf and began to tell the legend in a trembling voice. The dwarves listened in astonishment. Just then, shadows appearing in the sky distracted them. Eagles, increasing in number, began to circle above the village. The bound eagle let out a powerful cry, and one of the eagles in the sky descended, landing on a branch near it. This eagle was larger and more magnificent than the others. The dwarves realized with horror that the eagle they had bound was their king. Amidst the angry eagles surrounding them and his despairing people, Hike looked at the parchment with hopeless eyes. Just then, the symbols on the parchment began to glow brightly. The paper slowly folded into a sharp, silver dagger. With a newfound courage that replaced his fear, Hike took the dagger and ran towards the bound Eagle King, swiftly cutting the ropes that held him. As the ropes fell away, the Eagle King beat his powerful wings. While the dwarves recoiled in fear, the king cast a grateful look at Hike. Then, he let out a loud cry towards the other eagles in the sky, a cry not of anger, but of summoning. Seeing their king freed, slowly descended and gathered around him, not to attack, but to show their respect. The dwarves were stunned by this incredible sight. The respect these powerful creatures showed their king deeply moved them. The legend Hike had told and the secret of the parchment now made much more sense. The Eagle King approached Hike and gently touched the tiny dwarf with his massive head. This gentle gesture caused a wave of astonishment among the dwarves. Then, he looked at Hike with wise eyes, as if thanking him. From that moment on, a new era began between the dwarf village and the eagles. Thanks to Hike's courage and the truth revealed by the parchment, the hostility between the two different species ended, replaced by mutual respect and friendship. The Eagle King honored Hike and promised that the eagles would never harm the dwarves again. The dwarves, in turn, understood that the eagles were not enemies, but rather powerful and honorable beings. Hike was no longer a clumsy and fearful young dwarf, but the hero of his people. Through his bravery and open-mindedness, he had broken down a centuries-old prejudice and sown the seeds of an unexpected and eternal friendship. The dwarf village deep in the forest and the free eagles of the sky now lived side by side in peace, a bond that began with Hike's adventure